Now, welcome along Tuesday evening. Great to have you with us. Joe Molloy in for the evening. Slight Tangent makes a triumphant return this evening. Myself, Mick, Arthur and will have an array of topics to tease through between 8 and 9. Anything you want us to discuss, 53106. You can get us at a slight tangent at offtheball.com if you want to email. We will have Jackie Oatley on the show this evening. She will tell us about the end for Bruno Lage at Wolves and the control George Mendes exerts at the club. Tim Vickery on Neymar, amongst other footballers, and the Brazilian presidential election. Plus, this hour, a report published last night has further exposed a culture of verbal and sexual abuse in the Women's Soccer League in the US. Jeff Carlisle of ESPN is with us to explain all. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Michael McCarthy here in studio. Hello.
How are you, Joe?
And Richie McCormack as well is on the line. Good evening.
Lads, evening.
George Mendes, 8, so he exerts a lot of control. We'll talk about this with Jackie Oatley later on. 8 Portuguese players in the starting 11 against West Ham. They're basically Portugal. But even George couldn't deny Nathan Collins worth signing. Kid, I don't like where you're from, but you're bloody good, he said to Nathan Collins.
Yeah. Is there? Could we Portuguese Nathan Collins in any way?
Oh, yeah.
To make him fit in there? I don't know, but maybe.
What twist would you put in his name?
I'd see. That's what I immediately struggled.
Collins.
And there you go. Collins. Okay, perfect. There you go.
Nathan Collins.
Look, they are basically. I did enjoy when they had a kind of a. I think they had a third kit of
Portuguese jersey.
Basically a Portugal jersey with the Wolves sponsor.
I had missed that because I remember obviously Newcastle have the Saudi jersey now as their away strip. I'd missed the Portuguese Wolves number, which apparently was very popular with fans, so it went down well.
Yeah. But what do you think about it in general? It just feels weird. It makes you feel like a project rather than a football club, doesn't it?
I wouldn't be a fan.
But otherwise, you're in the championship. So just bear in mind you have that sort of. You're at best a yo-yo club, but if not mid-table, pushing for the playoffs. Whereas now they've been in Europe, they're contending for Europe.
I got it at the start, and when your club signs Ruben Neves because Mr. Mendes has funneled him your way, I'm all for it. But they're in the Premier League now. They're spending 100 million in the summer. They can look at players who aren't Portuguese.
Surely,
and not Nathan Collins. So Tim Vickery is on the way after 9 o'clock. Always a brilliant contributor on anything he's talking about. But this should be very interesting. The Brazilian presidential election on at the moment. They had hoped, certainly opponents of Bolsonaro had hoped it would be done and dusted, but Bolsonaro did better than expected against the other guy who's the leftist veteran, the
former president.
Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, or Lula as he tends to be called.
Or Lula, as we probably call him in Ireland.
He's called Lula. Even in Brazil, he's Lula. So they have to go again. There's going to be a runoff between the two of them because Bolsonaro got 43% to Lula's 48%. So there's a presidential runoff. But several footballers, the likes of Neymar, very involved, releasing videos of support for Bolsonaro. Ronaldinho, a supporter. Rivaldo, a supporter. Lucas Moura at Spurs, big Bolsonaro man. And so Tim will explain all. Quite an interesting thing has happened. Bolsonaro, well, I guess as these far-right nationalist types do, he's very much hijacked the flag, and he's also made a point, and he did it in his 2018 campaign, of hijacking the Brazilian jersey. So the wonderful yellow jersey that is beloved by the world, not just Brazil. 1 in 5 Brazilians say they will not wear a Brazil shirt now because it's so associated with Bolsonaro. And Nike will not permit you to buy a Brazil jersey and put Bolsonaro on the back.
Wow.
So it's quite kind of interesting the extent to which football and politics has intertwined here.
Yeah, and look, we'll hear more from Tim about it, but I suppose one of the things that's disappointing to me is, and this, look, I mean, that's obviously giving away how I feel about these things, but, you know, like Bolsonaro is often very compared with Donald Trump and is somebody that uses Trump's playbook an awful lot, but Trump tried to kind of hijack sport in the early days. But, you know, we had the Tom Brady and Belichick thing coming up to the election and so on. And there has been certain people all the way through that were very Trumpian. But in general, American sport, especially basketball and the NBA, really stood up to it. And Trump's reaction was like a baby, you know, like and threw his toys out of the pram, uninviting teams to the White House and so on. It just feels like whether he's done it he's actually done it in a systematic way with effort rather than just Trump's way of just throwing things out there, or it's something else. But the likes of Neymar, and it almost doesn't matter after Neymar, but there's plenty more there have come on board and allowed this to become a thing. You know, allowed him to hijack the flag and the jersey and so on. Because if Neymar's standing up to him, you know, it doesn't work.
Text and saying, is it like putting Bertie on the back of a Man United jersey, says Tony. Yeah, it is, yeah. It's exactly like that.
Yeah, which Adidas have banned as well, I hear,
Well, remember Bertie was on
Premiership,
Premiership, was it?
Yeah, I think it was called the Premiership at the time. It later became Premier Soccer Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't remember much of it. I just remember coming away with the feeling it had been disappointing.
It's on Reeling in the Years, I believe, and it's like what a brilliant
decision.
decision.
I think in full.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, I must check that out.
Well, listen, that's a whole slot somewhere.
The fact that it's on Reeling in the Years is a testament to that show, which is supposed to capture a moment in time, and a guy running for election as Taoiseach being able to turn up on a football show and be asked questions about Manchester United's tactics by Eamon Dunphy is a perfect moment in time.
Yeah, when you say it like that.
So groupie though.
We should press on. We're slightly tight-ish for time this evening on the Newsround. It is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. I've neglected to mention, Richie, it is Champions League evening amongst other things.
Yep. I had to double check this fact a couple of times just to make sure it was right, but indeed it is right. Liverpool meet Rangers for the first time in a competitive match ever tonight. Anfield is the venue for their Champions League Group A encounter, and it looks like Jurgen Klopp, as well as making a trio of changes, has opted for a change in formation. The back five is unchanged. It's Alisson in goal, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip, Virgil van Dijk and Kostas Tsimikas. Then in midfield, you've got the duo of Thiago and Jordan Henderson. In front of them, a trio of Mo Salah, Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz, with Darwin Núñez coming in to lead the line. For Rangers, Alan McGregor is in goal. They've got a back five of James Tavernier, Connor Goldson, Ben Davies, ex of Liverpool, of course, Leon King and Borna Barisic. John Lundstrom and Stephen Davis are in midfield, and Malik Tillman and Ryan Kent, also ex of Liverpool, flank Alfredo Morelos up top. Kick-off at Anfield is at 8, and at the same time in that group, Ajax face Napoli.
See, he's done it again. He has done it again. This is Pat Nevin just doing Pat Nevin things. The amount of times that man over the last decade has said to me, just watch out the next few weeks, I have a hunch that says something, and then several weeks later I say, oh, you were right about that. So last night he was on, and this is why, like, he's so brilliant and so smart, and you know, he never says things to clickbait people in, and I feel he's underappreciated almost by the
You're
masses.
going to be very lucky if I don't put this under a bed of some sort of loving music, I have to say, of the next. But
go for it. Pat Nevin last night was talking about Liverpool and the Reals. I gave him, we were tight for time, one question about Liverpool, and I was picking out, you know, different aspects, and he said, you know, I just think the way their midfield is at the moment, I know Jurgen loves that formation. Just watch next couple of weeks. I think he'll go 4-2-3-1. I think he'll switch formation, and that could solve a lot of their problems. And here he is, less than 24 hours later. Less than 24. So imagine how brilliantly Nevin must see the game. Nobody else I'd heard say that, because I was obviously listening to every podcast across Monday morning and prepping the way I usually do. Nobody else suggested
humble
this.
brag.
Sorry, I didn't mean like that. I mean the breadth. This is about Nevin. I listened to everything I could. Nice one. Everything I could, and not one person said Liverpool will go to a 4-2-3-1. Nevin comes on and says, I just think that's how we'll do it. And
so they have.
We're talking like Jurgen Klopp here, you know, like this guy knows the game as well. So I'm labouring the point now, but bloody hell, Pat Nevin. Quality.
Absolutely. Look, you don't have to convince me on Pat Nevin and his quality, but I'm interested to see how they'll play, because it's a very different, like, in some ways it looks attacking in that you've got the four guys in, but how is that giving them extra legs in midfield unless you're sacrificing Salah and Diaz a little bit, you know? I don't know. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying that in some ways you're looking at that as 4-2-4.
Yeah, I think the point is you'll just have those two sitting and giving more protection to a back four, and there'll be less onus on them to press further up, because you've got four players ahead of them who can go and do that a bit more.
Yeah.
So it's slightly less aggressive, but it should give them a bbit more safety at the back. Interesting
to see what that means then as well for the high line and for Alexander-Arnold and Tsimikas as well.
Yeah.
I've just it's actually fascinating. It's just like, I'm not Tactics Joe, but I will be watching this game with some interest tonight in that way. You know, I think that Liverpool have such a standard and set way of playing that we're all so familiar with, that for them to change it up, I'm just fascinated to see how that team operates in a different way.
Yes, it's a change of 6 years of doing things. So that's Liverpool this evening. Spurs are in Germany.
Yeah, they're looking to get their Group D campaign back on track following their defeat away to Sporting. Antonio Conte's side taking on Eintracht Frankfurt tonight. Interestingly, Conte going with the same 11 that was beaten by Arsenal in the North London derby at the weekend. Hugo Lloris in goal, back three then of Clement Longley, Eric Dyer and Christian Romero. Across the midfield, it's Emerson Royale, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Rodrigo Bentancur and Ivan Perisic. And then Richarlison and Heung-min Son are in support of Harry Kane. The other game in that group was supposed to kick off at 5:45, but it was delayed by 15 minutes as Sporting arrived late. It's currently Marseille 3, Sporting 1, and is being played out behind closed doors due to crowd trouble that marred Eintracht's visit to the Stade Velodrome last month. Sporting should note as well, also down to 10 men. Inter host Barcelona in the star-studded Group C tonight. That kicks off at 8 at the San Siro. There's a 5:45 start at the Allianz, where Bayern Munich lead Victoria Plzen by 5-0. Leroy Sané has scored twice. Sadio Mane, Serge Gnabry and the evergreen Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting have gotten the others. And Club Brugge will look to continue their perfect start to Group B tonight as they host Atletico Madrid. The Belgians yet to drop a point or indeed concede a goal. The other game pits Porto against Bayer Leverkusen.
Club Brugge.
Yeah, that's been going on a while now. Yeah, I'm still a Bruges man, but I am wrong.
Do you want to watch In Brugge?
I do. I love In Bruges. What a great film. Arthur was just talking about that the other day, actually. How did Sporting...
That trio have a new movie out, don't they? McDonagh,
oh, yeah.
with Farrell and Gleeson.
Yes.
Yeah?
I don't know much more about it than that.
I dare say it'll be good.
You would like to think so?
You can't really go wrong with those three.
No.
They have a bit of chemistry, it's fair to say.
Mark McDonagh is a very, very good filmmaker. How did Sporting arrive late to a game that was played behind closed doors and doesn't have any crowd there?
Unless there were fans outside the way they
protesting
gather at these things.
Yeah,
but I take your point.
It's like and it's also rush hour traffic in Marseille, which I doubt is much crack whether or not there's a game on. So, yeah.
But I think your point stands, Mick.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what they were playing at.
Just two surprising things that happened that don't necessarily correlate.
Shamrock Rovers then under 19s, Rich.
Yeah, they're looking to add an air of respectability to their UEFA Youth League tie with AZ. They trailed by 5-0 after the first leg in Alkmaar a couple of weeks ago. Kick-off at Tallaght Stadium coming up at 7:45. Meanwhile, the Republic of Ireland under 19s began their women's Euro qualification campaign with a 1-1 draw against group hosts Poland today. Jessie Stapleton scored the Ireland goal. The next group game is against Northern Ireland, and that's on Friday. The North were hammered 5-1 by group favourites France earlier today.
Now, we have All-Star nominations and no surprises that Meath lead the way.
Yeah, 13 nominees in all for them amongst the 45 that have been shortlisted for this year's TG Cahir Ladies Football All-Stars. Kerry receive 11 nods following a year in which they reached the All-Ireland final and won Division 2. 6 Donegal players make the shortlist, as do 5 from Mayo and 4 from Ulster champions Armagh. The team of the year will be revealed on November 19th. Meanwhile, Davy Nelson is set to succeed Eamon Murray as Meath manager. The former Navan O'Mahony's and Meath under-21 boss was recommended by the Meath LGFA Executive Committee. He'll be joined by former Monaghan footballer Bernie Murray and former Carlow hurling captain Mark Brennan. That's subject, of course, to ratification by the county board.
I always think it's tough when you're the All-Ireland champions and you get the nominations come out and it's like 13 or 14. It's like surely they could all get the nomination. But I don't know whether it was Limerick or Kerry, but one of them had 14 nominations this year, and you're thinking, God, that's one starter just completely left on his own, sitting at home crying back in Kerry on All-Star night.
I would say the WhatsApp group fallout is brutal. Sympathy, not.
So 13 of the Meath girls nominated, like 2 starters in the All-Ireland final, just going, what do I have to do? I'm so underappreciated.
Yeah. Now, Richie, I know you're all over this Emerging Ireland tour.
Loving it. Simon Easterby has named an all-new starting 15 for tomorrow's meeting with the Pumas. Connacht flanker Cian Prendergast will captain the team from the blind side. The team in full sees Connacht's Shay Mullins start at fullback. On the wings then are Ulster's Ethan McElroy and Leinster's Andrew Smith. The French-born Antoine Frisch starts in a green jersey for the first time, forming a centre partnership with Cathal Ford from Connacht. There's an all-Ulster half-back partnership of Jake Flannery and Michael McDonald, not the singer sadly. In the front row, Ulster loosehead Callum Reid is joined by Munster pair Diarmuid Barron and Roman Salam Noah. Cormac Isachukwu and Brian Deeney are in the second row, with John Hodnett of Munster on the open side and Leinster's James Culhane at number 8, with Prendergast on the blind side. 4 p.m. start to that one tomorrow.
There's a text in. Lads, what topics are on a slight tangent this evening? I don't know. What's our policy? We don't tend to
It's like we
Advertise.
we don't have to advertise. Will we give one? I can't remember any of them. That's how little. Like, we just come on and talk. Like.
No, we don't. We spent 45 minutes there trying to prep. Well, there were a few.
You don't want to give your good stuff away in the room, you know.
Yeah.
Or you haven't made it up yet. In my case,
I'm gonna jot it down here.
okay. What's the hot topic?
Has
there ever been an athlete like Erling Haaland?
Yeah, that didn't grab me that much, but I think we should talk about it because it's just the story of the week. There was somebody complaining about Manchester United fans leaving a match at half-time and fans who leave early generally. I thought that was worth a mention.
Oh, yeah. That was Andy Mitten. There
was the story in Offaly, but I think it's a wider point whereby some players underage are part of the Offaly under-14 development squad missed a training session because they had a massive soccer game they wanted to play, and so they were cut from the squad. It wasn't because they played soccer. If they'd been going to a theatre rehearsal or in band practice, they also would have been cut. It wasn't a garrison game. Mm-hmm. But I suppose the issue was they missed an important training session. And I think you were, the rest of us in the room were a touch like, oh, look, at a certain level and a certain age and it gets serious and the other 25 lads are all training. Maybe that's the commitment required for, inter-county development squad level. But you felt, surely we can accommodate.
I don't know if we want. I don't know about this specific instance because Will go into it obviously as an Offaly man. He'll tell you exactly what happened there and what the circumstances were and whether the players asked permission and so on. Right, but in general, I think we have to be able to accommodate children, which is what under 14 players are, into trying as much as they can in their lives. Now, I know there has to be limits on that, but I feel like as a society and sport sport leads the way on this, we try and pigeonhole people at a very, very young age in lots of different ways. And I think it should be just avoided when at all possible, And I think playing FAI Cup match as this was with your mates that you've grown up with is an important thing, and a training session with a team that ultimately is an under 14 team, whether it's county or not, it shouldn't supersede that for me anyway. I don't think we need to be worried about which sport is which. Coaches should be looking at things not as are we going to win the game, but as are all the people involved getting the most out of the experience. Yeah, that's my opinion, and I actually think that I'm in the minority, at least in our group.
I think you are in our group, yeah. And then the other thing, this is not an especially original thought of mine. It's not my thought at all. I heard it, I think I first heard it on the No Lane Up Golf podcast, but they will often, when you watch sport on TV, it's so difficult for us to really understand how brilliant they all are because everything is relative. And so it was Nick Harris had the tweet, and this often comes up when there's a big marathon, isn't it? So Nick Harris had tweeted, if you want to recreate Kipchoge's London Marathon win at the gym, then you get on the treadmill, and if your treadmill does your speed in kilometres per hour, then you put it to 20.6, or if your treadmill does it in miles, go to 13.1 miles per hour. So let's say it's kilometres, you have to go to 20.6 and you have to run that for 2 hours, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Which, okay, to those of us who are on a treadmill routinely, that just seems scary. And I was thinking it would be such a great thing if in Olympic sports, or where possible, we have the everyman or every woman out there. So by that I mean, Rich, the 100 metres is on, the world final, and you have your 8 lanes, but you have a 9th lane, and in that 9th lane, this is like when
somebody
you have.
Joe Soap.
Joe Soap. So Joe Soap, who might go to the gym twice a week, but also like drinks twice a week and has a takeaway at least once a week and has an office job, and they're part of the race, so you can really appreciate the speed.
So you just want somebody there for scale. It's like when somebody is selling something online and there's like a hole in it, but they put like a penny beside it to show you that look, the hole's actually tiny. Yeah, you'll barely notice it at all. Because you need somebody there to just go, correct, this is what every man can do, and this is what these absolute freaks who are amazing can do.
Because if they're all running at the same super fast, then no one's running super fast. We need the every man in there, or every woman, depending. And I want this.
That's gonna play havoc with the camera shot.
Yeah, I know, but there'll be it'll be fun too when they all cross the line, and then you're like 1, 2, 3, 4. Get to 9, 10. There he is. He just crossed.
They'll have done the interview.
This is giving.
They'll be there.
This is giving me. Yeah. This is giving me PTSD to when we used to run the bogies in secondary school, and I'd be coming home Paddy last as well.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you came home last.
This is a television masterstroke, if I do say so. And again, I've heard this elsewhere. Imagine the high jump, where like they do their thing, and then
You'd be
one
just
of
knocked
us,
out in the first round.
But one of us has to keep going. Like, so they keep going
So you
higher
get
and
all
higher
the way
and
to the
higher.
final.
Just keep humiliating.
You're in the final. Remember the 2 lads who shared the Olympic medal? There'd be a third everyman there also trying to jump it. Stop. Do you not think that'd be great?
But
I'm barely getting up onto the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to see some Joe Soap who's never done it before try to pole vault.
Well, I think
vault.
to be health and safety, I mean, you'd have to.
I'd
have a
only
club.
like to see them do that if they were mic'd. No, they'd have to be mic'd the whole time. if they were on the pole vault.
As they go.
Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus! Oh Jesus!
You don't want them to die. You get for the more
See, I
technical
always
stuff.
wonder, how do you try to pole vault for the first time ever?
I don't know.
Like, what's like, you know, like that is high.
I'd say I would imagine, maybe we should do a piece on this some night, but I would imagine on a smaller pole vault, and then you build up in length,
You build up to the big huge one,
because you could handle one the same size as yourself initially.
but it's not going to give you much spring.
No, you wouldn't. So then there
Yeah.
wouldn't be much danger.
I would like to know, actually. I have often thought of it.
Yeah, no,
I've
same.
never searched for the answer.
Yeah, yeah. So look,
That's a slight tangent, lads.
that I think we can explore what sports it would work especially well in. Obviously, you couldn't have it in soccer.
Would probably ruin the game, just
Yeah.
some sap lying around, like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
But a lot of Olympic sports would lend themselves to it. The Tour de France.
Yeah.
Imagine the aerial shot there.
Jesus.
It's like, but do you still, like, are they
So that's
playing
the
by the
commentary
same
that is-
rules? So you still timed out and stuff, like.
I know
Yeah.
they you make certain
Yeah.
allowances, but the purpose is to show how great the great are.
Yeah.
And if you keep that at the forefront of your
It
production
needs to be,
values,
I think it needs to be in things like 100 metres and things
Yeah.
that are short, sharp shocks. Like, do you know what? Velodrome cycling
yeah,
would be probably even better than the Tour de France. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Get you there on your mountain bike following the
Yeah.
lads around.
Just falling off
All that
constantly.
stuff.
Like, yeah.
I think because otherwise you watch, back to the original point, you watch Kipchoge and the lads running the marathon, and they look it's like they're out for a trot, and then you realise they're going at 20.6 kilometers per hour for 2 hours.
See,
Just
the thing with that is, like, the technology exists now where you can have like a phantom, computer generated person running at that speed,
Yeah.
running alongside them.
They
I do admire
do that.
your sheer avarice to have somebody humiliated on an international stage.
They'd be well compensated.
That's
No.
that's dedication.
We'd pay them well, and they'd be famous. They do interviews afterwards about what it was like. Yeah, they do have the world record line often in those long endurance sports, kind of in the distance. But I know I want a real person, red faced, blowing hard, just to give us a sense of.
Justin asking, can he drive the Spa Formula 1 race in his 08 Volvo? Or do you get the good car?
That's really the dream, though, isn't
Formula
it?
One.
To just drive a Formula 1 track in your Fiat Punto. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you do Formula One with safety.
Yeah. I don't think it would be very safe, yeah. But still funny.
But I'm not. We explore the idea though. Let's not rule it out. There might be a way to do it. Like there could be a safety, like a cycle lane, in effect,
Yeah.
all the way around the track where we're just going around.
Sorry to jump in on
Yeah, sorry, we gotta wrap this up.
show,
This
but
is
this is
too
normally your job. But David Mead captures what I feel like very strongly, which is I'd get lapped if I ran in the Olympic 100-metre final.
Yeah. All that. Richie, we have time for one more story very quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Connacht's director of rugby, Andy Friend, says Jack Carty could be in contention for Friday's derby with Munster. The Ireland out half hasn't played since undergoing wrist surgery during the summer. Meanwhile, Friend has voiced his concerns with the ever-growing length of some matches, and I touched upon this on Monday Night Rugby last night with Jerry and Liam, and he believes the stop-start nature of the sport needs to be rectified.
Yeah, I'm seeing, honestly, uncharacteristic errors from players that normally don't make those. I'm also seeing a really stop-start affair in all the games that we've had. We pride ourselves on being a team that wants to play fast. Well, I think we've had an average of about 33 minutes of football in the first 3 games, which is way too low. We sat at 35 and a half or 36 last year. So, and we've played against 2 teams in the Stormers and the Bulls, respectfully, that they like to play a reasonably open brand of footy. But we've had a penalty count of 36 in the last game, not against us, 21 to opposition, 15 against us. So, the games are so stop-starty, mate, and we just can't get flow. And then with that flow, we're then making the errors. So, there's a frustration around that. We then get players trying to create something and possibly come a little bit off script, which maybe throws other people out. So there's an energy and desire to fix the thing, but we just need to be really collective with that, and I'm comfortable and confident that we'll get there. Geez, I hope so, mate. You don't want to, we can't ask for a bigger game. Our first game at home, a brand new pitch in front of family and friends, and against Munster. What else do you want? Ideally, we'd like a couple of wins sitting behind us, but we don't have that. We had I thought what was a really good performance in a pre-season game against Sale, where we showed, some really positive elements of our rugby and our fight. I've seen that fight in the last couple of games, which has been really positive to see. But we need to be more than that. We need to be accurate. We need to be. We need to keep showing that fight, and we need to try and tie those two things together on Friday night.
Andy, friend, there. We are out of time. Richie, thank you.
Nice, lads.
Cheers, Mick. I'll see you later.
See you soon, Joe.